Kia ora, welcome to the Amateur Austenite. I am Frances Duncan, author, Austenite, life coach. My co-host is Emma Dunning. What title do you want today?
Today I am going to be renovation logistician.
Interesting. Excellent.
Completely unrelated to Sense and Sensibility, although Mrs. Dashwood is planning renovations throughout the novel.
That are never going to happen because she does not have the funds. And our canine co-host is Bingley. Today we're discussing Chapter 9 of Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. In Chapter 9, the Dashwoods are getting settled at Barton. Marianne and Margaret go for a walk, out in the rain, and then Marianne falls and is injured. It's very dramatic, and she is rescued by the hero Willoughby, who carries her home and then asks that he may call on her tomorrow. Sir John tells them that Willoughby's this great guy.
I was so excited that the movement of the planets gave me Chapter 9 to share with you, Frances. So when we decided who was going to be doing the chapters, it was just random. I just did Chapter 1, and that meant that I got all of the odd-numbered chapters.
Oh no, it was not random.
Was it not, Frances?
Do you not remember that last time we were doing a roundabout one, you said you wanted to do the odd chapters because you're odd?
That does sound like something I would say.
So I kept you with the odd chapters.
And here I am with drama. This running down the hill because it's raining. It's not very ladylike to run down a hill, but because it's raining, you can do what you really want to do.
Like be rescued by hot men?
Well, you can't usually plan for that, but this is a romantic, in the sense of dramatic, chapter. And so, of course, a strangely handsome man in a shooting jacket with a gun and 2 dogs turns up.
I reckon that you could plan to be rescued.
I reckon you would loiter around the gate in the rain for hours and hours waiting for Mr. Willoughby to go past, and he would just go out the other gate and go shooting on a different hill that morning.
And then you'd catch a cold and possibly die. Yeah, good point.
Tricky to plan. Luckily for Marianne, she falls and sprains her ankle, and in such a way as she can't stand on it. And she's very modestly looking down. She can't look at this strange man in the face. But he's a man of action. He can see that she can't ask him to pick her up. So he just does it. Austen comments that this appeals to her particularly, that he just spontaneously did what needed to be done.
Wild that her modesty declines being picked up by this guy when the stuff that she does later indicates that she don't give a damn about social norms.
Well, you get led down that path, don't you? I mean, you don't necessarily end up where you start. I think Jane Austen wants us to believe that she is actually a modest, intelligent girl who's carried away by her strong feelings. Jane Austen tells you she's intelligent and also tells you she has strong morals.
She does tell us that, but the way that Marianne behaves throughout the entire novel says no. So it's hard to believe, actually. The whole show don't tell that you can say she's intelligent and she's moral, but her behaviour has said otherwise. So I completely discounted what Austen had actually told us about this character.
Well, maybe she's saying that when you're young, you can behave against what your true character is, and that if you're given a chance to develop, you will become your true moral self. But you can, in that dangerous period, be led astray.
So it's just that Willoughby leads her astray?
Or she's led astray by her own strong emotions. Austen's definitely keen on controlling your emotions.
So even Eleanor and Mrs. Dashwood are pretty taken by Willoughby. There's an evident wonder and secret admiration from his appearance. And him being so frank and graceful, he's uncommonly handsome, he's charming. Had he been old, ugly and vulgar, it would have been very different. The influence of youth, beauty and elegance gave an interest to his actions.
We would like to think that we're not swayed by physical appearance, but of course we are.
It's very fairy tale.
Yes, it absolutely is. I totally love that he departed to make himself still more interesting in the midst of a heavy rain. That's the ordinary heroism that he doesn't care about getting wet. He's not weak enough to seek shelter. He just rides out into the rain.
Well, because he also seemed to appear out of nowhere. It seems like the girls are alone on the hill, and then he's suddenly there. It says that he was passing them within a few yards, but prior to that, it felt like they were completely alone in this entire countryside. And then suddenly there's a guy with a gun and dogs who's just happens to be there. And it's in this chapter that they discover Allenham, which reminds them a little bit of Norland, the home that they've just left. And how fucking appropriate that then they run into this guy who just happens to be staying there. He doesn't tell them, so John tells them. And they're like, oh, icing on the cake.
I mean, I don't think they're jumping quite that far ahead, but they soon will. The girls and Mrs. Dashwood are pumping Sir John for information about this guy. And Sir John is absolutely classic, sports mad. They're asking about his character, and he's telling them he's a very decent shot, and there's not a bolder rider in England. And the most important thing about him, he's a pleasant, good-humoured fellow and has got the nicest little black bitch of a pointer I ever saw. Was she out with him today? He is interested in the dog. And Marianne could no more satisfy him as to the colour of Mr. Willoughby's pointer than he could describe to her the shades of his mind. So Sir John is not capable of describing what Willoughby's mind is like, and Marianne is not capable of remembering the colour of his dog. It just tells you their characters. It's beautiful, beautiful writing.
But because Sir John's really social, because he's got no other reserves, he does remember that Willoughby was dancing all night. And Marianne's like, okay, that's good. That's great. Whatever his pursuits, his eagerness must know no moderation and leave him no sense of fatigue. Dude, calm down. The fact that he dances all night doesn't mean he's morally superior, Marianne.
Well, dancing all night is kind of sport. Sir John is going to be noticing that as a sign of fortitude, fitness.
And also being Sir John, he then immediately goes into, oh, so you want to marry this guy. You're going to set your cap at him. And this often comes up in the adaptations, and he even says it to Mrs. Dashwood, who's like, my daughters haven't been raised to do that. And he's like, him and Mrs. Jennings are just like, there is a young girl. We should get her married.
So they are doing it in a more direct, vulgar fashion, but can we really say that Mrs. Dashwood is not doing the same?
Do you think that Mrs. Dashwood is trying to push her daughters into marriage?
Push them? No, but it is her ambition for them. You can tell from the questioning, she is asking, is this an appropriate man for my daughters to know? And that is leading to, is this an appropriate man for my daughters to marry?
I don't know. It's Eleanor who's saying, where is he from? Does he live at Allenham?
They're singing from the same song sheet. That's exactly what both of them are aiming at.
But Mrs. Dashwood specifically says men are very safe with us, let them be ever so rich. It's a good line, whether it's true or not. The way that Marianne tells Sir John off after her mother has told Sir John off just amuses him even more, because she's just, no, I'm not, stamp feet.
I also love his phrase of all this tumbling about and spraining of ankles. Is a great summary of what happens in this chapter.
Possibly in the novel in general. Spraining of ankles, catching of colds.
Setting of caps. I wonder if that is because you don't wear your cap in public. To set your cap at someone is to mean you want to have a domestic relationship with them.
I don't know. I have no idea of the origin of that term. You can probably search if you want to.
You know I want. I could come back to you with that.
Austen specifically draws a comparison between Willoughby and heroes of Marianne's favourite stories. And this is the stuff that we expect in a novel, and this is the stuff that Austen is making fun of, because the two male love interests that the women get engaged to at the end, yes, spoiler, are not described as handsome. We're not following the general rules. Willoughby arrives in this dramatic fashion and is described as handsome and charming, all the good things. So a little mysterious. So it's like we are setting everyone up to think that Willoughby's going to be the hero. And Jane Austen is laughing at us. She's like, I know what you think, but just you wait. This guy sucks. I'm going to teach you that just because all the romantic elements are there doesn't mean that this is the right choice. There's got to be more than that.
Wow, that's one of the purposes of fairy tales. They have a real lesson from life to teach you that things are not what they seem.
Don't stray off the path. There might be a wolf waiting for you. Ooh. Oh, it's Marianne, Little Red Riding Hood. It's nice to see that the Dashwoods are getting settled at Barton, though, and I think actually being away from Norland seems to be helpful for them. They're not having the same reminders of their father and everything that they've lost and being visitors in their own home.
They're really embracing it. Actually, it speaks well for Marianne that she's not comparing the countryside to Norland and finding everything wanting. She really does love this countryside. She's enthusiastic. She wants to spend time in it. The sadness that comes later is not all Norland related. It's not that she's always miserable. She does have positivity, happiness. Go, Marianne.
There's a contrast between the Dashwood ladies and the family at Barton Park. There's kind of an idea that rich people are always idle, but the Dashwood women, very definitely not. Sir John's always surprised that they're doing things when he turns up and he's used to stuff not going on at home because Lady Middleton doesn't do anything. And then later when the Miss Steeles arrive, they find it difficult that the Miss Dashwoods are always busy and feel like they should be doing something. Because Sir John doesn't have any entertainment at home and doesn't have any of his own resources. As soon as the reign's over, basically, he's coming to visit them, and that's how they learn about Willoughby, because he needs external stuff to entertain him, whereas the Dashwood women have got their own things going on. They have the music and art. We don't know what Mrs. Dashwood does.
She does say at one point, when the girls are going, spoiler, off to London, that she's got plenty to occupy herself with teaching Margaret and some other undefined activities, planning her renovations.
I like that they're not idle, though.
Yes, and it's not just because they've not got money. They've always been this way. They were like this when they were the mistresses of Norland too.
It's showing the different types of people there are in certain strata of society, because again you have the cliche that a rich idle woman like Lady Middleton or Lady Bertram, that those are the ideas that we have of rich women, that they're very idle. Those two are idle in different ways, but you don't have to be that way. And yes, the Dashwoods don't have the same money as those other characters, but they were raised with money, so you would potentially expect that they'd be that way, and they're not.
And Austen is clearly approving of this. She's holding this up as the better way to be.
And that's our discussion of Chapter 9 of Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I've been Frances Duncan, and this has been Emma Dunning. Thank you for listening, and we wish you happy reading. I know you tell me not to do spoilers, but this thing's been out for more than 200 years.